It's 2 o'clock. This is our 8th nonprofit chat. Very excited to have a guest on our show, Shayla from Curious or Editing. Do you want to just quick introduce yourself, Shayla?
Sure. I own Curious or Editing, and I work with authors on their books. So I'm basically a very book-centric company. I provide editing, writing, coaching, marketing, and I also oversee design and formatting projects as well. And it was my dream job, so I love getting to work with authors every day.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
that is
Shayla
awesome.
does, one of the reasons we asked her to join us, she does an amazing job with her content marketing, and I love her emails. So that's definitely an area of expertise for her. And yeah, we're happy to have her.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I think the key here is that you've been around this for a while, and it's something that you encounter every day. You see people doing it well, you see people doing it poorly, you see what works and what doesn't work, and that's really what we're hoping that nonprofits can get as a benefit of this chat today, is understanding that. So content marketing is a pretty broad term. Different people have talked to me about, what is content marketing? Is it the same as online marketing? Is it your website? Is it social media? What is it? And, really content is something that you generate. Content is, press releases, it's blog posts, it's videos like this one.
Twitter
It could be
posts.
anything like
Yeah.
that. So, just in general, content marketing is a pretty broad, it's things that you create. And what we're typically talking about here is original content, things that you're creating yourself or a team member of yours is creating, not something that you're copying from someone else or that kind of thing, which is important. So,
I think that's a very important distinction. Content marketing, I think more people were doing this a few years ago. It was just like if you were just sharing other people's content exclusively, that felt good enough, or people thought that was good enough, or whatever. But unique content is what is super important. I think I just read a statistic on this morning. It was 80% of your content should be your own voice, 80% of your blog at least. I think that's a minimum. I think that's a good, a good place to start at least. Your own unique voice, your own content. Google cares about that, and your readers care about that.
Google cares about it because your readers care about it. So,
Right, exactly.
So, because, and I just say that because a lot of people are like, oh, what does Google care about? It's like, Google cares about what anybody cares
Right,
about.
because
That
Google's
their
very
goal
smart.
is to tailor their algorithms to what people want to see. So
Exactly.
that's what it's all about. So, so we kind of have a sense now of sort of what is content marketing, and we're going to be talking kind of throughout this chat about the impact of it, why it's important, all of that sort of thing. So I think let's just get into
Yeah, we
the
have.
myths that you have. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 4 myths that we kind of come up against when we talk to not just nonprofits but nonprofits. So one is email is a lost cause, because people, maybe people have moved on from email, maybe they don't read their email. So I definitely wanted to direct this one to Shayla, because I love the titles of your emails. I love your emails too, but you really draw me in with your titles. Like it took Token how long to write this book, or I can't market a dreadful book. I had to click on that one because I wanted to know, like, what, I don't know. I wanted to find out more about that topic. So what do you think? Do you think email is a lost cause?
No, of course not. I mean, I think that it's probably next to Facebook. I mean, I think it's probably key in terms of getting your content out there and turning those readers into customers or clients. And I think that sometimes, when I hear people talking about it being a lost cause, I think it's because they don't know how to use it to the best of their ability. And if it's confusing to them and they don't understand open rates and they don't understand strong email subject lines, they're just going to forget it and try something else, especially if you wind up in a lot of spam folders. Once that happens, I think a lot of people just want to throw in the towel and say, well, it's not for me because it's not working right, it's broken. But really, they need to understand some of the core principles that make email marketing so effective.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you have any? Do you have any like favorite emails that you sent out that were the most effective for you, or any stories or stats like that? Or I mean stories, not stats.
I do have one that, I actually had somebody who coached me on this, so this is not my own doing, but I was coached on it. My email open rate for a while, it used to be high and then it dropped to, like, it was 10 to 12%, which is low. You wanna at least be around 30, 35% on your open rates, that's really good. So mine was around 10 to 12%, and I was told to do a segmented list, so I would send it to all the
I
people
love
who had
that.
not been reading my emails at all or even opening them. And basically all I did was just a one-liner, and it said, the email subject line said, "Can I ask you a question?" And then the body, all it said was, "Are you still interested in writing a book?" I had so many emails, I was trying to folder them and like
Right.
keep up with all of them and answer them on time. And interestingly, I also had a lot of people unsubscribe, which was part of my strategy. I didn't want to keep those people around if they weren't interested in my content.
Right.
So two things happened, they unsubscribed, so I don't have those people anymore. And then the second thing that happened is actually having connection. I was actually engaging with these people, and I got new clients because all I did was ask a simple question. And it sparked a conversation about, why are you not writing your book? How can I help you write it? So that was very effective. Once I did that and I made some minor tweaks, like getting a domain email address to keep me out of spam folders, once I just completely cleaned up the whole email, no images or anything, just really got it cleaned up. Once I did those things, my open rate stays around 40 to 45%.
That's good. Yeah.
Good day, and on like a day, it's around 30 to 35. So, and that took me a lot of time and learning and asking questions to get to that point.
So in the body of this email, what was there still just the question, or did it expound on the question?
Once I did that and I kind of fleshed out all the people who didn't care to hear what I had to say, once I fleshed them out and once I started reconnecting with the people who cared, then I think you might have noticed I started changing the way that I did my emails. All my emails are going to have stuff for me that you just don't see in blog posts. It's really me getting to talk to you guys. And so I'll give advice about writing or publishing, and then I'll give some articles that I loved that I know my readers will enjoy. So once I did that, I think people found the value in my emails and wanted to open them.
That's really cool, and I think there's two takeaways from that for nonprofits. If we could tailor, if we would tailor the scenario to nonprofits more. One, Shayla mentioned segmenting your email list, which we talk about a lot. I think it is so valuable to divide up all of your contacts into whether you do by donor size or the size of the donation, or whether you do it by more key interests. You can actually you'll get so much more response and engagement from your emails if you're not sending every single contact every single email, if you're segmenting your email list instead and sending key important topics for that person, what they want to hear. And then it's, as far as the question email, I think that's really cool. So if you could find a question that's kind of at the heart of your cause that you think your constituents, your donors care about, the reason that they stumbled across you or signed up in the first place. Maybe it's about, do you care about trafficking or whatever your cause is, feeding the hungry, or maybe it's you can spend some time coming up with that question, but I think that's really cool. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, not too much. I think that's really great advice. I think that once we're sort of through the myths, I'd like to kind of come back and look at how this all fits together.
Right. Well, the second myth is our website is a place, not a tool, and that was actually kind of I was going to direct that at you. So
yeah, cool.
I know that's something you talk about a lot.
So maybe I'll just say this. Sort of back up just a second and say this. So when it comes to all of your to sort of simplify, people get overwhelmed with all these different channels. Like, all right, I have email, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have Twitter, and what do I do? Do I have a plan for each of them and all of this sort of thing? Remember that the only thing that you have control over on a long-term basis that's available 24/7 is your website. And so, you know, you don't have full control over Facebook. Facebook's going to change your algorithm. Your content's going to fall away, that sort of thing. You have control over your website. So when you look at your content marketing plan, you should start from your website and work out. So your website is where your content originates. It's where you can tailor your message in a way that is unique to who you are, to your audiences, and then you can share it through channels from there. So you can share it to Facebook, you can share it to Twitter, all these different channels. But if you look at that as the source, the others as channels, that gives you a much stronger, you know, idea of where to start. Your website is something that, when done well, creates engagement. I'll give you an example of this. So we had a client, didn't happen to be a nonprofit, but they had a website for about 10 years, and they thought that they had checked that box. All right, we have a website. It had information about their products, about who they were. It was basically sort of like a brochure about who they were. For 10 years, they couldn't trace one single sale to that website. Not one. And we came into this picture and we said, you know, why do you have a website if you can't even trace one single sale to your website? And we sort of let them kind of step back and take a look at, you know, why is this that we have a website, we have an audience that can be engaged online, and yet we're not engaging them. And so we took a completely different look at it and said, when your clients come to your website, what is it that they're looking for? And then, you know, kind of getting inside the mind of the client and going through that user flow from the time they hit the first page to the time they exit the site. What do you want them to do? And then once that was established, then thinking about how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them when they come back, realizing that this is you. This is basically a full-time salesperson for you. This website represents who you are as a business. It represents who you are as an organization. And the result of that was that in the next 3 or 4 months, they had over $1 million of sales through their website because they took the time to think about it. They took the time to create content that was relevant to their audience and on an ongoing basis. And so that's the power of using your tool or your website as a tool as opposed to a brochure about who you are, and making it a real live interaction on an ongoing basis.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want a website that generates $1 million. So, all right. So that was the second myth. Your website just being a place, not a tool. It's just like a, you know, a lot of people just put it out there like a billboard
The
or
Yellow Pages.
or a business card or something. Nate demonstrated the power of social media driving traffic to your website and then using your website as a tool. And I love this next one because I honestly think that this kind of touches on all of our lives a little bit in marketing. Social media is only for young bucks. It's only for millennials. Maybe it's only for the selfie generation. Shayla, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. First of all, I don't know where that comes from, really. I don't know who generated that, but basically, you know, when I saw this question on our list, I thought about Shailene Johnson, who is an everything. She's an author and speaker and social media guru. I mean, she teaches courses on it, and she's 47 years old. So she has almost 1 million Facebook followers. She kills it on Instagram. I mean, she's amazing at everything she does. And she is definitely not a millennial.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make this work for her and for her brand? Well, she chose to figure it out, and she chose to ask questions and learn it and master it, and she has. And she's not the only one. Gary Vee, who's along the same lines as what Shailene does, he's 40, I think right about 40 years old, and he's killing it on Snapchat and everything. Snapchat is such a millennial thing, such a millennial platform, yet Gary Vee is on there killing it. And
Right.
Seth Godin does great. He's 50 something years old. So these people are millennials, and they're making me, a millennial, look bad because they're just slaying the social media game. So no, I don't think that that has anything to do with it. In fact, I think that in some ways, baby boomers, Generation X, I think they could find a way to make these platforms work better for them than even I could. Because we are so quick to just scroll through something, and if it doesn't catch our attention immediately, we're like, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this. Because we're just, that's the way that millennials are. And I feel like when you have Generation X and baby boomers, they're a little bit more methodical. And I think that they can find, they find the time to make these platforms work well for their brand. I really do.
I love that thought because there's two things that it really makes me think of that I was researching and reading lately. One was this fascinating article I read on Gen Xers actually. They also dubbed them the Oregon Trail generation. And I love this article because it was talking about, I'm like right at the cusp of Gen X and millennial, like I'm kind of right on that line, so I'm never sure which I'm more like, but they talked about the Oregon Trail generation and how they don't take technology for granted as much, and they kind of saw the birth of all these things. They played Oregon Trail in their basement with their 1990 something computer, and they had DOS printers and or maybe I just mixed two things together, but they had those printers with the gray dots and the strips of whatever the strips of paper that you tore off the side with the holes in them. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but dot matrix, yeah. So yeah, I think I was talking about a platform, an operating system. But anyway, like they saw the birth of this technology. They saw things progress. They saw things grow, and so really that generation has more of a tendency to sort of take things apart. And like you said, they're more methodical. They're more like, how does this work? They might have a little bit more curiosity about how things work than your typical millennial person. And then the other thing I read was that millennials are the first generation, possibly, I mean, I know this is maybe just someone's theory, but to influence up. So baby boomers are really thinking much more like millennials than previous generations thought like the generation, right, younger than them. And I thought that was really interesting too. So
yeah, I mean, in fact, there's statistics that back that up.
Right.
So the baby boomers are using social media,
right,
and at an increasing level as well. So
because their kids and grandkids do, and they want to stay in touch.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, yep.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I liked that one. That was an interesting, short-lived bit. So, the last one that we were going to talk about was I have nothing to say on a blog. Obviously, everyone has something to say in a blog, but maybe you just feel stuck and you don't know what to talk about on a blog. If you just Google, there's two articles actually. I don't know why they have the same title, but they're both really fascinating. It's 27 things to say in a blog. And they're really interesting. They just get your mind going with, well, first of all, I want to say both of these touch on, really you can only output what you've put in. So something that's been on my mind a lot lately is I think people are so eager, like they're like, oh, I've got a blog, and they sit down and they, just like try to sort of generate something. And I've really noticed the quality of my own blog posts really go up when I actually read books, and research, and not just sort of do last minute, like, oh, I have to write this listicle, I have to write this blog post about this, and I'm going to quickly Google a couple things and regurgitate someone else's information. But like really if you are really in touch with your topic and you love to research, you're going to have so much to share. If you like to, read and, does anyone
It feels
else?
forced when you, because I've done that where I just want to sit down and like, oh, well, I have a blog post I have to write because I don't want to disappoint my fans. So I've got to put something out there, and it becomes forced. And so I actually stopped doing that. And I would wait a couple of weeks until I felt like I actually had something that was worth saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree with you on that. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when depending on the size of nonprofit that's looking at this, I think just to back up just a second, to be convinced of the value of content marketing is first and foremost, because your purpose in your organization is either to deliver that service that you're offering or to draw attention to that cause that you care about, or to raise funds to support that cause. And so a lot of times people in a small nonprofit or even a medium-sized nonprofit, they're very stretched when it comes to time. They're very stretched when it comes to overhead and that sort of thing. And so the first question is really, is it worth it? Like, does this have the payoff that's necessary for me to engage in it? And the answer is definitely yes, because if you're building an audience online, the only way to organically grow your reach is through content marketing. There really is no other way.
It's not about keywords.
It's so interesting because I've seen so many of these nonprofit, seminars / whatever things, telling people how they can get connected with the Google AdWords grant for $10,000 a month. It's very hard to spend that $10,000 a month actually, because that's a lot of traffic, right? But what tends to happen is, if you don't have something to drive traffic to, then you're just wasting your time and your effort and your money, because that traffic is going to bounce. Your bounce rate is going to be 70 or 80%, which means people are coming, not finding what they're looking for, and leaving, and you won't see those people again. And so it's not a foundation from. You have to start with content marketing.
Right. We've definitely had, we had a client, I cannot remember the specifics of this, but 80% of their traffic was for a keyword that had nothing to do with what they did as an organization, but somebody had set that up for them. And they were like, I'm spending all this money on Google AdWords and I'm getting so much traffic, but then people are just leaving. And we found out, through researching their analytics, that 80% of their traffic was for a word that had nothing to do with what their organization did.
So the value of content marketing, is absolutely 100%, because not only are you going to connect with your audiences directly, you're going to raise visibility in Google search results for the subject matter that you are writing about, that you're creating content for, and you'll raise awareness that way. So if you are going to be online, and you're going to put the amount of effort into creating a website, you have to follow up with content marketing.
Yeah, I agree.
There's really no other purpose to exist. So that being said, the next question is, well, how do we do this in a way that is structured, that I can create something that I just have a regular, plan for, so that it's not every Monday I'm waking up and thinking what am I going to do for content marketing this week? I guess I should create a plan for this week, So I think that's the next step is, and have you worked, Shayla, with anybody to create marketing calendars and that sort of thing?
Yes, I'm actually doing that right now with an author, and then I also am doing social media marketing for another client. He's not an author, but he's a chiropractor. So I've really mainly done it for myself forever, and then I started offering it to clients.
Cool.
Nice.
Yep. So what we tend to recommend is that you create a marketing calendar at least for the next 6 months, preferably for a year, and that way you can be very intentional about content creation, planning, because the best voice when it comes to content marketing is your own, or your organization's. So if you have 5 or 6 people in your organization, get other people involved. They don't have to be writers. They don't have to be X, Y, or Z. It could be the executive director writes, twice a year about something, So if you plan for the year, it gives you a better chance to sort of project ahead and say, hey, you write something about this, you write something about that. We're going to record an interview about X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
So,
videos, photo blogging. It doesn't all have to be someone who loves to just sit down and write, the 1,000-word blog post. There's other kinds of content. Some of them might be more challenging, but they might be more in line with what you love to do. A tip I read that I thought was really good is really, and it relates to what Shayla said about engaging your readers, like respond to other people, like respond to a blog post someone wrote, like, to add on or to engage with that blog post, respond to a question. That really gets people involved in your blog posts.
Yeah, and I think that's the next thing, and that's the real intensive thing is that content creation piece. So it's what do I create? How do I create it? All that. We're creating content right here. So,
Right.
we took whatever, half an hour out of our day. There's 3 of us recording a video. We're going to take this video, we're going to break it up into 10 clips. We're going to write a short paragraph about each one. And we're going to put it out there. I mean, we're creating 12 pieces of content.
Right. And it usually generates
from
a
this
blog
half
post.
hour, thing. So it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can turn all of those those clips and those paragraphs, they're gonna go out on Twitter and they're gonna go out on our Facebook, and that's, I think, when your social media is really powerful. And I know we mentioned this, but when it's reflecting your own content that you created and pointing back to your blog or website.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the final step really is, so you're convinced of the value of it, you plan, you engage your other team members, you create the content, and then you broadcast it. So and because it's original content, this can be, you can post this to Twitter 100 times in the next year. I mean, in different ways and with different hashtags and whatever.
Right.
I mean, this original piece of content is, has value if it's done well, if it's done right.
Right.
And I think that's back to your point, Shayla, about, quality over quantity every time.
Yeah, I agree.
That is what's most important. I definitely agree. And that's why you don't see me doing as many blog posts as I did before, because I would rather spend more time making sure that I'm providing value in my blog posts instead of just forcing something out every other day, So I think also having the calendar, that kind of stops a lot of that anyway. But yeah, I agree. Quality over quantity.
I think that's really key advice. I know I had that, I struggled with that for a long time with my blog. I really, I was like, but don't you have to post 3 times a week? Isn't there a rule somewhere that you'll fail if you don't post 3 times a week? And
Your blog just shuts down.
Right.
I mean, I'm on the other side of it, so I'm kind of it's quality over quantity, so I'll post every 6 months. So there has to be a balance there somewhere. You have to be committed to some kind of consistency at a minimum. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Cool. Well, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot more that can be said. I think we're just sort of brushing the surface of this topic. We've done some other nonprofit chats on certain social media platforms. I'm sure we'll do more in depth. Maybe we'll get you back on, Shayla, to just talk about maybe more in depth about content creation and that specific piece of it, which I think
about writing. That would be
is
awesome.
something that people struggle with.
I do know a little bit about
You know a little bit about writing.
Yep. So I think that sums it up. So would love to hear anyone's questions about this. If you're watching this now, if you're watching this later, if you want to leave a comment on the video on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever, we would love to have those questions and maybe incorporate them into a future nonprofit chat.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. And whatever questions there are too, you guys can always tag me because I can talk about social media and email marketing all day. I love talking about that. So
Awesome.
definitely tag me on those.
We will do.
Will do. Thanks so
All
much,
right.
Shayla.
Thanks, Shayla.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye.